Former President Donald Trump is now on the campaign trail in Iowa tonight. And the Republican frontrunner is in the Hawkeye State days after making incendiary remarks on immigration. Trump said, quote, "Immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country." It was a remark that drew a rebuke, a sharp one, from the Biden campaign that said Trump was, quote, "parroting Adolf Hitler." Our CBS News poll finds the former president holds a commanding lead over his rivals in Iowa. Joining us tonight, Gómez and Olivia Rinaldi. Finn is a CBS News great political mind and our political director. Olivia is a CBS News campaign reporter. Great to have you both. Olivia, you're on the trail with former President Trump in Iowa. What is the talk among his own supporters about how he's handling the issue of immigration and the broader Republican race?
Yeah, Bob, as you mentioned, over the weekend, he made those incendiary comments in New Hampshire saying that immigrants were, quote, poisoning the blood of the country. I spent some time here earlier today talking to voters in Iowa about how they felt about those comments. And I have to say, a lot of them were not very bothered by the rhetoric. They actually really enjoyed Trump's policies on immigration. And it's one of the things that turns them out today. Take a listen here.
That's a very good comment. I think he's probably the only one that can address that, exactly what he meant. I'm not going to speak for him or against him on that issue, but I do see that, not all of the people coming in that immigrants are children and women. There's a lot of men that are coming in.
Having them flood in through the southern border, it's not good for America. We don't know who these people are. We don't know their backgrounds because we don't have the manpower down there to do background checks on all of them. And if we have terrorists or the drug cartels coming in, that's just going to corrupt America.
As you heard, some of those people said that they weren't exactly bothered by what they heard from the president over the weekend. They're not going to speak for him, but immigration is a huge issue here in Iowa. Over the last several months that I've been here, I talked to voters and I asked them, what is your biggest issue that you're going to turn out for on caucus day? And by and large, Bob, it's immigration.
Olivia, thank you. Stay with us. Some Republicans on Capitol Hill have been asked about former President Trump's comments, including the Senate Republican leader, Mitch McConnell of Kentucky. Let's listen.
Are you comfortable with your party's leading presidential candidate referring to illegal immigrants as people who are poisoning the blood of our country?
Well, it strikes me that didn't bother him when he appointed Elaine Chao Secretary of Transportation.
Finn, as our political director, you've covered a lot of politics over the years. We saw Senator McConnell react to these latest comments. Are we going to see just a replay of what we saw in 2015, 2016, and every year since in terms of the Republican response? Some shrugging of the shoulders, but ultimately Trump remains the front runner. Trump doesn't get ruptured by making these kind of statements. How is this going to play out based on your latest conversations with party leaders?
No, I spoke to a top Trump advisor just a little while ago, Bob, who says that this was a playbook, straight out of the playbook of 2016, right? They know what they're doing. They realize how this immigration issue is rating, frankly, in Iowa and New Hampshire. They see the popularity of it. If you look at Andy Savanto's polling from earlier this week, it does show that the majority of Republican, or almost about half of likely Republican caucus goers believe themselves and call themselves as MAGA Republicans. So this aligns with how they're feeling. If you look at that same poll, it shows the significance of immigration. So talking to this advisor, they say they know what they're doing, and also they think it's a huge political vulnerability for President Biden. They're looking directly at the general election, according to these advisors that I speak to, even looking past the big contest that's coming up in 27 days, Bob, as you know, Iowa caucuses. But this is something that is a tactic. It's a move. Even though it's being called, frankly, racist, it's being called nativistic from his critics and from
the Biden campaign's comparing it to Nazi Germany.
Nazi Germany. This advisor said he's never written Mein Kampf. He's never read Mein Kampf, is what I've been told. But according to his advisor, but like they see this. They also, the Democrats and the Biden camp also see this as a gift, frankly, because they can go off and say those things about the president, the former president, who's like currently leading some of these hypothetical matchups right now between him and Biden. So I mean, for both sides, they see it as a political vulnerability for the others and a top issue for the cycle.
Olivia, what are voters saying about all of this? Okay, based on Finn's reporting, the Trump campaign's projecting confidence. Based on these latest comments, they think it's going to consolidate his own support. But they see the CBS News poll as much as anyone. Do they start to feel the heat from former Ambassador Nikki Haley? And are they worried that the former president's distracted as this closing lap begins?
You know, of the voters I've spoken to here, I don't think any of them feel that way. They have felt invigorated from the start and here to fight for former President Donald Trump. I do want to bring up something notable when you talk about turning up the heat in Iowa here, though. Yesterday, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds had some choice words for former President Donald Trump. He's been having these advertisements that have been playing here in Iowa, using her comments against her. Her comments that she made in 2016 and 2020 when she supported former President Donald Trump in some advertisements that he's been using. Take a listen here.
Now he's using me to mislead Iowans as if I'm endorsing him. And I want to be clear. I supported President Trump in 2016. I voted for him. I supported him in 2020. I agreed with his policies. But it's a different day. It's a different time. And we need a leader that's not distracted.
As you can hear her there, she says that Trump is misleading voters here in Iowa. And we're just 27 days until the caucus here, and no one is pulling punches anymore. Everyone is going after each other. Even in New Hampshire, the MAGA PAC today out with a new ad attacking Nikki Haley, saying that she's for a higher gas tax and going back on her word there. So we're just, in full sprint here until January 15th and then January 23rd for the New Hampshire primary, and everyone is in the ring.
Finn?
Yeah, I mean, Olivia's absolutely right. And as you and I both discussed, Bob, right now it's crunch time for all these campaigns, right? I mean, but can they make up? Can they, like those who are rivaling Donald Trump? There's a 36-point difference in Iowa in our polling that came out earlier this week. Like, what can they do to dramatically change what looks to be the outcome in 27 days? Look, a lot can happen in Iowa. Iowa's known for its upsets. Santorum. We know Cruz. We know the Huckabee stories.
But not
right?
one of those people, Santorum, Huckabee, or Cruz, ended up winning the nomination.
Exactly. And
so, what does a Iowa win really guarantee Trump, if anything?
Momentum going into New Hampshire, and where we have seen that the only true momentum that we've seen in that state, according to our poll, has come from Nikki Haley, who's only about 15 points down. Who has 10 points in that same poll? Chris Christie. So I think some people close to Haley were even surmising what happens if Christie drops out.
Christie has shown no sign of dropping out.
Exactly.
So what's the Haley campaign trying to do on that front?
But look, I mean, that's the thing. They have to go around that. But their thinking is those are 10 points that could go to Haley. If there were 10 points, we're talking hypothetical right now, Bob. But if there were 10 points to go to Haley, it makes it a ball game, right? You're within 5 to 6 points of Trump in that poll, right? Because who else did this Christie supporter go to? Right?
I just wonder. Christie has shown no signs, Olivia, of getting out. What about DeSantis? If he doesn't do well in Iowa, and we'll cover more of Governor DeSantis later in this show, but if he doesn't get out, if he doesn't do well in Iowa, what does that mean for the Trump campaign? Are they going to try to embrace him, or are the relationship right now is pretty tough between the Trump side and the DeSantis side?
I mean, it's tough to see a path forward for DeSantis in the race if he loses Iowa, as you mentioned. But for the Trump campaign, it's within Trump's wheelhouse to bring someone like DeSantis in, as you had mentioned before. Someone like Ben Carson, who he had a difficult relationship with in the 2016 primary, or 2015 primary rather, ended up bringing him into his administration. So it's not without, merit that Trump could do that with DeSantis. Nikki Haley, on the other hand, though, we'll have to see how that relationship unfolds in the coming weeks, as the race seems to be heating up between the two of them rather than Trump and DeSantis, as it has been for the last 7 months or so in the primary.
And just, Olivia, very quickly, what are the how do Trump voters talk about Nikki Haley on the ground?
One of the voters I spoke with earlier today said, "What do you think about Nikki Haley?" And she said, "You know what? I don't really like her." They're not really keen, after Trump has been attacking her, to really embrace her back into the fold. But as you know, his supporters are very loyal here. And if he chooses her for a vice president or something in his cabinet per se, I could see his supporters ending up taking her back in.
Quick final thought, Finn.
Very quickly, I spoke to a Trump advisor yesterday, specifically on DeSantis, predicting what happens to DeSantis. According to this person, they believe that DeSantis will lose pretty largely in Iowa, right? No surprise there what they think, of course, but they do think that he could possibly come around and endorse Trump, because where else does he have to go?
He might stay neutral.
He may stay, wait, just hold out to 2028? I mean, that's the thing.
That's what I'm asking. There's bad blood everywhere in this campaign.
There's really bad blood
December.
between these two. But you're right, everything's fair in love and
My motto,
politics.
assume nothing. It's going to be a long few weeks. Finn Gómez, Olivia Rinaldi, appreciate your reporting and your insight.